Today, we're going to talk about what size tires can fit on your Canam Outlander or Renegade and what you got to do to fit. So I'm going to explain. All the differences and what you might need, and I'm going to show you picture examples as well as video examples of what the outcomes are, and we'll weigh the pros and cons of things. Remind me to put 2 beers in the freezer so they don't explode. Alright guys, so we'll shred one for the boys in a minute, alright? But right now, y'all's questions that y'all came to seek out is about old Outlander. I almost spelled Lancher. And old Rennie. Or Reen. Or Rennie. I don't know. Renegade. I realized that probably not smart enough to spell Renegade right first try, so I'm just going to put Outlander and Rennie. So, y'all are probably wanting to know how to run certain size tires and whatnot, and I'm gonna try and make this super simple for y'all. I'm not trying to get too fancy on you. Oh god, I'm drawing on Marissa's. Our Outlanders and our Rennies. Y'all wants to know how to run certain size tires, what you're gonna need, and what it affects and what it'll do, how much money it's going to cost and whatnot. So we're going to obviously show the cheapest routes to run everything first, and then the most expensive routes last. So we'll just go tire size. I think everybody can pretty much fit a 28 stock. So we'll go from 28 to 29.5 to 30. I don't even know if they make a 30. 31, 32, and then our magical 34. Since these are ATVs, ideally anything over 34, you're going to a 37, and if you're going anything bigger than 37, you're getting into that like seriously custom phase. So we'll just leave 37s up there and draw us another line. Alright, so I did my chart wrong, but that's okay. Y'all will still understand this. In order to fit 29.5s on a Renegade, you don't have to do anything. On an Outlander, especially the Maxes seem to have more clearance, but on an Outlander that is same short wheelbase, not extended and everything, you're gonna need floorboards, aftermarket floorboards. So the aftermarket floorboards on the Outlander, most of them for the years, the new GTs and everything, you can clear up to a 32-inch tire. So that means all these guys with just floorboards. But you may have rubbing on some extreme bumps and stuff, so you have 2 options to eliminate that. Number 1 is crank your shocks up for additional lift. It's not a lot, but it will stiffen them and keep them tires away from the fender wells. The other thing is the puck lift, and that's only 20 bucks. Get them on eBay. Don't buy them from High Lifter or any of those people charging like $200 for these. They're like 1-inch pucks, but they lift your bike like 3 inches or some shit, or 2.5 inches. I don't know. And then they're 2.5-inch pucks. I don't know. But basically, they're these little aluminum pucks. You decompress your spring. You take the retainer off the top, pull your spring off, and you put the puck on, then you put your spring back on, decompress it, put the top back on, and you got yourself some additional lift. So my bike has aftermarket floorboards and crank shocks and puck lift, and I am fitting 34s. yes, if you do a wheelie, the fronts will compress enough to where they rub a little. If you hit a hard bump unexpectedly, it will rub a little on the fenders. But other than that, it rides, turns, and does everything fine. Now, if you have a Renegade, you don't need any of this stuff, and you can fit up to 34s on stock suspension, stock axles. All you have to do is trim your fenders. My buddy that rides in my videos, Justin, has done this, and we've proved you don't need to do anything. In fact, he's still on stock axles and hasn't broken any yet. You might be stuck. You might be stuck. It's because the tires aren't touching. Stand on the back. Stand on the back. It's too deep? Oh, gotcha. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Wow! You found, well, we knew it was bad. It's creeping. It's creeping. You're not stuck yet. Found that the smaller your tire, which is this one that I have here, the faster your wheel speed. The faster your wheel speed, the more shit fucking seems to break. I'm guessing because it gets going so damn fast, when it finally hooks up, it's just catastrophic on the weakest length. My weakest length was my OEM front axles, the cages. So on the axles, the CV axles, they got these little fucking, this thing and splines. And then they have the boot. And then they have the cups on both sides. So the cups basically have, they're like chambered almost. They have grooves in them for almost like a revolver. I don't know how this one looks because I've never looked inside, but I'm guessing it's the same. And then on the end of the axle, on the axle itself, is just this like gear type looking thing. It's like a gear basically. You can kind of picture like a gear on both sides. I'm not drawing that again because that was ridiculous. But that's what's on the end of the axles inside of this. And then around this is balls that go around the gear and fit in the gear grooves. And then a cage that holds them all and allows it all to flow freely. So the cage is over this like this. And the balls are in between the gears inside of the cage. And that's what allows it to move around, spin, while giving it motion and ranges of flexing and everything. For me, with this wheel speed I had, the cage, not the bearings, not the axle, the cage, not the cups, not the splines, not the differential over here, but the actual cage itself is what broke every time. So you can actually buy upgraded cages. I didn't know that at the time. I just kept buying new axles, and now I have Turner Eagle 2s, so those are expensive, but I don't worry about those front axles breaking anymore now. It's more of a differential issue. So anyways, these small tires, albeit they're dope and everything, and they fit, I really wish I just would have went with the holy shit size and did that, but I didn't know that. Now you guys know. The best all-around tire I would suggest is 32, because you're not going to have rubbing if you do these things. You're not going to have rubbing if you do the aftermarket floorboards. You might on wheelies, but then you can do the puck lift. It still rode comfortably. Even with the shocks cranked, it still rides comfortably. Even with 34s and the shocks cranked, it still rode comfortably. But that's for an Outlander. These have different shocks most of the time. They're Fox shocks. Mine was not Fox shocks, and I'm really grateful, because I tried putting pucks on a Fox shock and I couldn't figure it out, and I didn't want to take it apart because I didn't know if it was gas or hydraulic or whatever the fuck was going on in there, and didn't have the time anyway. So, next. That's what you need to do to fit certain size tires on your Outlander. 37s, you're going to need to start lifting. So the other option you got to really fit 34s for the Outlander, and this option can go for the Rennie too, is something like a PATV front arched arms. There's a pretty significant price tag on those, and they're going to give you a lot more ground clearance, because it's, I'll show you in this photo here, what it's doing is it's allowing the rut that you're going through, allowing those tires to touch and deeper before you bottom out, because they're arched, so you have better ground clearance and it helps out a lot. The only thing I would say that I do not like about these is the axle angles look kind of extreme usually on these lifts. If you have Turner axles, I guess it really doesn't matter because they can handle it, but for the price tag, that's an expensive lift. It adds 2 inches of lift to your bike, which it looks a lot more than 2 inches. When you do put bigger tires on it, it looks a lot more noticeable if you put bikes next to each other that aren't lifted versus ones that are. And then the next thing is a rear extended swing arm. And we'll say good brand is CFAB. Also expensive. The reason why most people would go with CFAB or PATV over somebody like Highlifter is because both of these have 2 inches of lift added into the kit. So you're benefiting lift and more raked arms basically. These extend it, I think, 2 or 4 inches, I can't remember. They also widen it a little bit, I believe, too. I forgot what it is, but I'll put it on the screen here. So these are things you can do to your Renegade to add more of a look to it, and the total price would probably be around like $1,300 American, and that'll definitely give you a lot more lift to fit bigger tires. If you want to fit 37s on your Renegade, you're going to have to do that. Actually, that's not true. I take that back. You don't have to do that. You can still fit them stock, but it's recommended to really fit them. You would have to do way more major trimming of the fenders. Wheel spacers would really help, and then your rear tail lights will begin to hit the 37-inch tire, I believe. But it is possible, and I might be wrong, but I don't think they added wheel spacers or anything. I think they just literally put them on there and cut plastics. So that's possible. But if you do arched arms and rear extended swing arm, you're definitely going to clear these really well. You'll get a more extreme axle angle, but ultimately it's a better axle angle than a 6-inch lift kit. So on the Outlander, to clear a 37, you would probably need a 6-inch lift kit, and then floorboards. You would probably need a 6-inch lift kit and floorboards to fit the 37s. I don't know if anybody out there has done it on a regular basis. You usually don't see Outlanders with 37s, but I'm almost positive if you did a 6-inch lift or even a 4-inch lift, then floorboards would probably work. I'm gonna see if I can find some photos to put up here now, but that's as big as I'm going on the tire for this description. Once you start getting into portals and portal lifts, like the 4-inch lift and then 6-inch lift, and I believe they even have the 8-inch lift, changes the ride. So all this is nice, and if you want more gear reduction, yeah, go with a portal lift. But if you like the way your riding style is, where, the higher you get, the less you may enjoy it. You may find you don't like the fact that you can't fly into a hole, because if something unexpected happens, you're just going to roll over it and go flying or whatever. And I've seen that happen a lot. But I think the sweet spot for me is going to be 34s and the setup I have right now. Down the road, if I really wanted to, I might throw in the front arched arms and rear extended swing arm, just to add that added height and clearance, just to really emphasize it. But then I would probably figure out how to squeeze 37s, and it's probably a never-ending game. But I think 34s are going to be where my sweet spot is, and I think I'm going to stick there. 32s are a great way to start, though, especially Outlander-wise. Renegade-wise, I would say, save your money and jump straight for 34s, because 32s are great, but 34s, I promise you, are way better. It's a different riding style. Again, this wheel speed's insane. I used to rip into holes, but once you start getting up, your wheel speed goes down, obviously, because it's way bigger, way more weight, way more traction, everything else. So ultimately, can you run any of these with a stock machine just as is? The answer is yes, you can fit them. You can fit them. Now, the other things, other than we talked about like suspension and axle angles and stuff like that, portal lifts I'm not going to get into because it's just kind of a different deal. Let's talk about clutching and belts. Can you run any of these on stock clutching? The answer is yes, but it's going to be a lot harder to push any of these tires. And I would especially say 32 and below are like the only ones I could say you could get away with it with if you don't have clutching. It will definitely, you'll feel it and feel the heat from it when you're going through thick stuff. But if you're just cruising and trail riding, which you're not, because you're here to watch about 37-inch tires to 29.5-inch mud tires, it's definitely going to put a strain on your belt and your CVT system. So I would recommend getting a STM primary clutch and secondary spring. So an STM primary, it kind of looks something like this. It's got the like gear stuff here or whatever. STM primary, and then so the STM primary is going to set you back probably $1,300 or close to that if you have it set up by somebody. I think you can get it a little bit cheaper if you don't. And then a secondary spring is probably like $30, or you can get the person that sets it up to combine those. The secondary spring is absolutely necessary to have on your stock clutching. I don't know how to draw a spring, but so STM primary clutch and a secondary spring to put behind your stock secondary clutch is absolutely necessary. You have to have it. You have to get it all done with the right clutch or spring and right weights and everything. Les Kubak on Facebook, add him and talk to him, tell him I sent you. He will get you set up and have your shit shipped out pretty quick. And I love the setup he did on my bike, and it I told him pretty much I don't need to go over 50 miles an hour. It still went over 60 something, like easy. But I ran those 34s and it was still, I know Justin's face, I did a ripper real quick, did a burnout on the asphalt by accident because I was just taking off. And Justin's face was like, oh, because those are his tires, and he likes to ride off in the dirt and stuff when we ride on the road to save them. But he set that clutch clutch up, that thing fucking shreds. So, you know, we want to be shredding. Talk to Les, tell him I sent you. Definitely gonna have to get a clutch if you're thinking about sending any of these tires. Can you get away with it for a while, like a few months of riding or whatever, 6 months to half a year's riding? If you ride every weekend for half a year, yeah, you might have to replace one belt and maybe two. I doubt it, but maybe one. It's gonna get hot and deteriorate a little bit quicker, but you can get away with it. So don't let this sway you from getting bigger tires. That's ultimately where you're gonna find what you like to do in the mud. And I'm telling you, like, the bigger you go, the easier it gets, the less stuck you get. The most lift I've ever achieved out of my bike was not from any of these things. I might have got a little bit of lift out of this and some clearance, but the most lift I've ever seen out of my bike was from bigger tires. So I would highly suggest starting at like a 32. If you can afford it, get an STM primary and a secondary spring, and then chill, ride out. But in order to fit 32s on a stock Outlander, you're gonna need to do at least aftermarket floorboards. They claim you can run 32s. And then these two, if you have any kind of rubbing or you want a little bit more lift out of it. The Renegade, you can run 32s, no problem, but I'm gonna tell you, you just jump straight to 34s because you can run those no problem. But you are gonna definitely need a clutch if you're running 34s, absolutely. 37s, well, I already told you for 34s, you're gonna have to absolutely do it. So 37s, same thing. All right, guys, so I hope this kind of explained everything and answered some questions for some people. I need a fucking beer. And yeah, so portal lifts, we'll make a video about that. I need to talk to Honda on DKT and get his true, honest review and opinion on them before I speak on them, because I don't know a whole lot other than their gear reduction devices that lift your bike. And gear reduction is gear reduction, so that may not be for everybody's riding style. But from what I've seen, they make your vehicle wide, boy, and they put you up in the air, boy. So put some big old fucking knobbies on it. Then you got you a wide high load. So maybe they're the dopest. I do know that they help the axle stay on a better angle. So you eliminate this from these two. But yeah, we explained how motherfucking axles work and what usually breaks on them. It's not actually the axle itself. It's usually the cage, and they have upgraded components you can buy and rebuild them yourself. It's a mess, but you can do it. Yeah, I think that about covers everything in this. Don't start out small. When you're going to spend your money, I'm telling you, save your fucking money and start out with one of these two. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed this informational video. I'm sitting here drawing on my hand. And like always, subscribe. Throat's a little parched. Might need to shred one for the boys. Alright, SUB, scribe, 4. Kinda don't look like a 4. 4 more shit. Most importantly, always. And most importantly, always shred one for the boys.